Welcome back to the Chester Centurion podcast, the show where we explore the journeys, lessons and insights of business leaders shaping Chester and beyond. I'm your host, Alan Bark, and today I'm joined by Joshua Burbridge, Managing Director of Archwood Group, a family business with roots going all the way back to 1867, from staircase components and mouldings to flooring, timber products and even coffins. The Archwood Group is a fascinating and diverse company with a turnover of 25 million, employing over 100 people. In this conversation, Josh shares what it's like to lead a fifth-generation family business, how he balances the weight of tradition with the need to innovate. We talk about misconceptions around family businesses, the importance of reporting and values, as well as numbers, and why cash really is king when it comes to building resilience. Josh also gives us a glimpse into the future of Archwood, from automation and new production ranges to acquisitions and UK manufacturing, and leaves us with some powerful advice for anyone starting or scaling their own business. This is a brilliant conversation, packed with honesty, practical wisdom, and some great lessons in leadership. Let's dive in. Josh, welcome to the Chester Centurion podcast.
Thank you, Alan. It's good to be here.
You're very welcome. So, listen, before we get started today, I'd love to know a little bit more about the Archwood Group and tell us a little bit about what you do, how long you've been trading. Tell us a little bit.
So, the Archwood Group is actually a business formed out of three trading brands in 2010. The trading brands, well, one of them has been going since 1867. So our roots go back quite a long way to my great-great-grandfather. The three brands that we trade under, the main brand is Richard Burbridge, which people know. They'll sell home improvement products, joinery home improvement products into the DIY RMI market, so trade merchants, and to the staircase manufacturing market. And we sell staircase components, mouldings, and outdoor products alongside some DIY timber under that brand. And we sell to the likes of B&Q, Travers Perkins, Jewson's, to some regional trade merchants as well, like Boys of Bowden, which people know in the Chester area. And we also sell to staircase manufacturers, the likes of Stairbox, GD Woodworks, Staircraft, people like that. So the large names under that. We also sell solid and engineered flooring, wood flooring, into the retail market. So the high street floor covering market. We sell it to trade merchants as well. So again, Travers Perkins, people like that. And we sell to the contract flooring market. So through architects, we get our product specified and we do large scale projects. So hotels, large residential outlets. So places like the Nine Elms redevelopment, and we sell into pubs and clubs as well.
Very good.
Third brand is Mason's Timber Products, and it works as an OEM, so a component manufacturer of timber components for the window and door market, toy manufacturers, and also the coffin manufacturing sector as well. So we're quite diverse in our customer split. In terms of the overall turnover, the business is of circa 25 million turnover, of which Richard Burbridge is about 70%. Atkinson and Kirby is 20-25%, and Mason's is the remainder.
Very good. You took the words out of my mouth. Pretty diverse, from coffins to staircases.
Yes, yeah. Not quite cradle to grave, but
Not quite.
We definitely do the grave part, and someone's got to do it. So we make the boxes look pretty.
For sure. How big's the team, Josh?
So we have 100 full-time employees or FTEs across two sites. So the main site is in Chirk in North Wales, just south of Wrexham. And then we have a satellite sales office and distribution facility up in Livingston, which is slap bang in between Glasgow and Edinburgh.
And what motivated you? I mean, obviously it's a generational, incredibly successful generational business. What was the driving force behind your decision to take on this entrepreneur?
So I joined the business post working as a management consultant in London for 4 years, I felt like I wanted the opportunity to shape the future direction of the business, if I'm honest, and take over from where my father had taken the business. And I wanted to sort of galvanize and motivate a team to deliver the future success, not just for the family, but for the people who work for the business. And I enjoy the varied nature of what I do, which spans supplier engagement. So I spend quite a lot of time traveling around the world, going to our different supply partners. I go to see a lot of our customers, whether that be entertaining them or doing deals with them. I like motivating the people, talking about the finance. We've recently implemented a new ERP system in IT, so that's quite a challenge. And looking at new modern manufacturing techniques as well, which we were talking about just before we started the recording. So a couple of my team are currently in Ligna over in Europe, looking at modern machinery around automation of processes and new woodworking methods to enhance our product offer and also reduce the cost or time associated with manufacturing certain products in the UK.
And what would you say some of the misconceptions about running a business are? How do you go about addressing them?
I think people think when you join a family business, it's a cushy gig, because there's always a slight bit of nepotism associated with it. So, your name, I'm a Burbridge, so my father was Richard or is Richard Burbridge, should I say? And I think there's also a misconception that you are the only one who can make the decisions. I think you need to empower the right people, get the right team around you for the business to succeed of our size. And I think one of the areas that I think I've learned over a period is you need to be close to your customer. They are the heartbeat of your business. You need to put the customer at the forefront of every decision that you make to ensure that you can pay the bills, you have a relevant product to take to the market, and you understand what they require from you, whether it be a product or a service. And I think, it does take some hard work, and you've also got to be committed, and it's quite difficult to turn off from a business that you are either the primary shareholder or the entrepreneur. And you do need to give yourself that time and space to sometimes take a step back, because my father is the chairman. He's 82. And when I engage with him, which I do normally on a daily basis, sometimes when you're having a family meal or something like that, you don't necessarily want to talk about business, but you're going to have to, because it was his first child, because it was passed to him, and it sort of acts as my first child slightly as well. So you're constantly on the go, but I don't really mind that. It's something that comes with the territory. It's different than being an employee, where yes, you are paid to turn up and do a job, but actually you probably carry the responsibility of the business wherever you are and whenever you're thinking, whenever you're awake.
I think you're 100% right. Family businesses are definitely different. Generational businesses are definitely different. There's things that are so much better about them, but there's also challenges involved as well. I remember being involved in a generational undertaking business. Actually, we come back to coffins again for some reason, but it was an incredible business with a lot of positives, but you've got that family dynamic you have to take into consideration as well.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times you've mentioned the team there. You talked about motivating the team. You talked about empowering the right people. Tell us a little bit more about that. How do you go about that on a regular basis?
So I've now been in the business for 19 years and a number of different roles. The business was a lot larger when I joined, actually, not through any fault of me, by the way. I hasten to add, if anyone's listening.
Yes.
Although there have been some commercial decisions that I potentially didn't get right, and I've learned from them.
Yeah.
Where we've been the most successful from a team motivation perspective is I have tried to promote people from within to get to the senior position. So I have a board of executive directors. There are 3 of them, and they have all worked their way up to the level that they're at. I haven't brought anyone in. Now, we have historically brought people in at director level, and I would say some worked, some didn't, but I would much prefer to understand the motivations, the drivers behind the individuals at the top level in the business and at the middle management area as well, to really get under the skin of what motivates them and how they can really make a difference to the business and realize their personal ambitions and goals, rather than bring someone in who is potentially not aligned to the culture and the way that we do business and the way that we approach certain challenges that we have from a business perspective. So I need to see people and work with them and trust them that they have the right mentality, decision-making process before I put them into a senior position from a business perspective. Because I get a bit concerned about them coming in and having ideals and principles that aren't aligned to what we are as an organization. And we are quite value driven as a business. And that's something that I've clearly articulated to everyone who works with us, through the supply base, through the financiers, through our customers. We don't do traditional solely financial reporting and departmental reporting from a business perspective. We report on our values. So we have 5 values in the business: reputation, responsibility, growth, transformation, and evolution. And we report on those on a monthly basis back to the workforce and on an annual basis to our customers and to our suppliers about how we are forging ahead and trying to enhance the way we do business across those different values. And I've tried to get the team aligned to that as well. And that's what I try and get to motivate individuals. It doesn't always work, but it seems to give people more than just a salary and their own personal ambitions, that they can be aligned to the values of the organization and they can see how they can deliver against certain targets and criteria that we set out to try and enhance the business over an annual. Well, we have a 3-year plan, but we report on it on an annual basis. And we're completely honest. Some of them we miss, and some of them we hit. We hit more than we miss. But it's a very important thing to act with integrity from a business perspective, for not only your workforce but for your customers as well, for them to understand, you're not just a price-driven organisation. That's important to us.
I think there's something really, really valuable in your answer there, Josh. Thank you very much. That was a brilliant answer, by the way. You're a values-driven business. And what I found really interesting is that you report on your values. And businesses like that are few and far between. Jack Walsh from General Electric talks about this, and Simon Sinek, one of the best speakers in the world, talks about this as well. And he talks about, we've got 1,001 metrics for measuring traditional stuff, performance, your sales targets, your operational performance, quality controls, but negligible to 0 to measure our trustworthiness or our values, our alignment to the values. So very, very rarely do we find a business that actually reports on your values and takes those words that you've listed very seriously and can identify as a values first organization. Incredible. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I remember someone saying that you can always put values up on the wall, but you don't necessarily live by them if you don't report on them. So we just turned around and went, well, why don't we report them on a monthly basis? It was like, well, how do we do this? How do we run a board meeting? So I have an 82-year-old chairman who happens to be my father as well. And he sits there and goes, all I want to see is the P&L and the customer service metrics. And I'm like, well, I think it's a bit more than that. And actually what we need to do is dig into, how are we enhancing stuff through transformation? How is the culture of our organization evolving under evolution? How are we training people to ensure that they can give our customers a better service and feel motivated. And obviously, it was interesting because you don't normally change your values, but we did actually change one of our values because it used to be stability. So the first time we set out on our values journey was out of COVID, and we had a pretty rocky time going into COVID. In fact, we almost went bust.
Wow.
And for a business that had been going for since 1867, that would could have been laid squarely on my shoulders, which wouldn't have been great from a family perspective.
No.
But we said, actually, do you know what? We'll set out, and we kept reputation, responsibility, transformation, evolution. But we used the word stability, and you know what we got? We got stability from a revenue perspective and a PBT point of view. We just delivered stable, low digit, not even single digit sometimes returns, and we didn't grow. And I sat in a room with my team and I said, what are we going to do to address this? And they went, well, let's just put out some ideas of how we can grow the business. And I said, well, let's have a look under what do we phrase what stability meant to us? And it was all about growth. And I went, well, why don't we just change the word to growth? We'll just we'll change the value to growth. So we changed it at the start of last financial year, and we're now 9% up on last year. We've grown, but I wish it was that simple, but it just
No, it's not.
It was the ethos of, do you know what, we're going to get the sales guys to really go out and hammer everything. And we've, in a year where we lost a section of one of our largest customers in April this year, okay, we are still delivering 9% growth.
Very good.
So actually, we've grown despite the fact some of the stuff that was done during the market, because markets shift and people change the decisions about what they're going to buy from you. You've got to roll with the punches and go, well, am I going to crawl into my shell as a business, as a business leader, or am I going to go out and I'm going to forefront and I'm going to go and find different markets? So this year we've made some weird and wonderful products in that angle of trying to grow with bad news that we had in terms of our largest customer turnaround. I said, we're going to stop buying the largest product category from you. And we went, well, actually, we'll find different ways. And we're just about to onboard another customer who is going to basically fill that gap completely. And therefore, we'll grow even more next year, which is great. But, it does work.
It is fantastic. And, the values aren't just words. It's everything that's underneath them. So Clive Woodward talks about that, and the transformational piece from the Olympic squad at Beijing to London 2012, and that was all driven by values, which there's a massive lesson, and I'm a big advocate of what you're doing there, Josh. Really, really good. And how do you maintain a work-life balance as a business owner? And you kind of already said you can't get to switch off, but do you have any sort of personal rituals or habits that keep you motivated and focused?
I play a lot of sport because, as any of my friends would tell, I'm quite competitive. I like losing. So I make sure that I do quite a lot of exercise just to keep my body active as well as my brain.
Very good.
I'm up at 5:45 every morning doing some exercise. So that's a ritual that I do and just keep myself physically active. In terms of switching off, I suppose I followed in my father's footsteps. I'm always contactable from a business perspective. However, I will take my holiday allowance and probably a little bit more than that, if I'm being brutally honest. But I am there. So if there is a problem, if people need me, I can be contactable wherever I am in the world. And I'll probably work hard, play hard, if I'm honest, and just ensure that I get enough downtime. Do I get the right balance? No, probably not. But the fact that I'm in a business, it's a relatively, it's a small to medium-sized business, I get the opportunity to empower people to deliver for me. And I'm not, whilst I'm over the information, I'm not completely in the weeds of the detail all the time. And I allow people to go out and do things. I empower my team to go and deliver for the business, and I hope I reward them, in a way that they feel rewarded for the effort that they put in as well.
And you mentioned earlier that a couple of your team are looking at a brand new piece of equipment at the moment. And I think business is moving faster than I don't think it's ever going to slow down either. I think it's moving faster than we've ever seen it move. Are there any specific strategies that you can use to remain innovative in this marketplace?
Our market is quite traditional.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm not in software where it can go redundant within, weeks or months. It normally takes a few years, and it's still relatively relationship driven as a whole sector, and you have to deliver consistently, and you have to deliver a quality that's expected by your customer base. So to keep abreast of new products and things like that, we do scanning from an interior design perspective to work out what the latest design trends are. That still takes some time to feed through into our marketplace. So I don't think it's fair to say that I'm at the forefront of brand new products, but we do watch innovative individuals in the marketplace to see whether there are opportunities to bring new products to market. But I wouldn't class us, we've been known in the past as innovators, and we've brought some pretty interesting products to market, but I would say we're not at the forefront yet. Mainly, I think to keep at the forefront, you need to keep your marketing quite fresh in terms of product marketing. And that involves bringing in new people to challenge you in the way that you think about certain things,
Mhm.
products or services. But I always think that you can sometimes steal good designs from other areas of the market. You don't necessarily need to be the true innovator. You can watch. So from our example, we would watch the kitchen manufacturing market, or we'd watch the furniture manufacturing market to see what design trends. So if people are moving more into Scandinavian design trends, which are simpler, less ornate product, could we apply those principles to our market with the machinery that we've got or the raw materials to then bring an alternative product that is slightly more innovative into the staircase, or window frame, or less coffins, if I'm being brutally honest, but other markets that we service. And a lot of our innovation from a flooring perspective is driven by our suppliers. We don't manufacture flooring in the UK. It's a very high capitally intense industry, and I don't think we'll be going down that route. We will always be reliant on our suppliers, so we need to go and visit them on a regular basis. I've
Mhm.
come back 5 weeks ago from China from visiting a number of our suppliers, where they will turn around and go, someone asked for this kind of product and I think it will work in your market sector. We'll be like, yeah, we'll give it a go.
Excellent. And what next for the business? Could you give us a glimpse into the future, Josh? Any future plans for other branches, or what do you see happening next?
So at the moment, we're very focused on ensuring that we deliver growth from our existing markets. There are opportunities from a market share gains, and that's what we're delivering on at the moment. So increasing the sales of our current product to either new products or new customers, or
Mhm.
new products into existing customers. The simplest part of the Boston matrix.
It says.
We will also look. We have historically been an acquisitive business, and we have made some acquisitions over the early 2000s, and 2011 was our last serious acquisition. And we would look at buying other brands to fit underneath the Archwood Group, so more specialist joinery manufacturers in the UK. But ultimately, what we need to do to improve the returns that we generate from the main core part of the business, we need to be manufacturing more product in the UK. And our focus is on getting the right supply lines to ensure that we can manufacture more product in the UK. And that really is one of our primary focuses. And that's why we're in Ligna this week, and we have also bought 3 other bits of kit which we're adding to our inventory of machinery here. to enhance the offer that we can deliver. We're also designing a new product range to simplify the renovating of your staircase. And there are also partnerships that we're doing with some of our customers where we turn around to them and say, well, we'll make certain products for you with a view to them becoming closer in partnership with us.
How exciting. I've got 2 questions left, Josh. We're almost there.
That's all right.
The first one's a big one, and it's, what are the 3 biggest pieces of advice that you could offer to someone thinking about starting their own business, or maybe facing a challenge right now with their business? What would be your top 3?
They're 2 very different questions, I think. If you're starting up your first business, if you're looking to start up a business, make sure you analyze your market and work out what your USP is going to be in that marketplace. And if it's price, I would say look long and hard and see where you're going to add the value over and above anyone else, because I think that's a really challenging environment to be in. In terms of starting up your own business, well, make sure you generate or keep sufficient cash in the organization that when times are tough, you can still survive, because I've been through it personally. And without having a trading history as long as ours, I think we would have potentially gone out of business because some of our suppliers and customers wouldn't have been as accommodating as they were. Thirdly, if you were to rely on external financing, I'm afraid to say, if you're a bank listening to this, I wouldn't go to a bank, because I just have had pretty bad experiences of them. And I don't think they necessarily understand what being in business is about, if I'm being brutally honest. And that's something that they are numbers people. They are not entrepreneurial, and
No.
don't expect them to understand what you're trying to do from a business point of view.
Uh,
I suppose if you've got challenges in your organization, I think you need to keep on asking the question why you've got challenges, and maybe get somebody external to sit there with you and really analyze, who you trust, to sit down and assess why you're in the situation you're in, and listen to them and really interrogate what the issues are from a business perspective. Don't just allow yourself to think you know the answer, because sometimes it's good to get an external perspective on stuff, and that doesn't need to be paid for. That could just be a friend who
yeah.
you trust. If it's a market-based issue, you may have a fundamental problem and you may not be able to get out of it. If
Mhm.
it's unique to your business and there are other people who seem to be doing well, find out what they're doing. Unashamedly, you can potentially copy what they're doing. Doesn't You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Always keep control of the cash. Just focus on cash generation. I think a lot of people focus on revenue and profit. Actually, cash is always king. And I can tell you that I have run a business. We bought a business administration. First thing I looked at is cash in, cash out. We're now a business that's very stable. We don't have any borrowings. I still look at the cash every day. And it's boring, but it's really, really important. Cash is fundamental.
We did some work with a gentleman called Alan Milts, who's I think he's an Australian that lives in South Africa. So he's probably about as straight talking as you could possibly get from a human being. And he coined the phrase, turnover's vanity, profit sanity, but cash is king. And you've just used cash is king there, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, cash is so important.
Vital. It's the lifeblood of a business. There's some real gold in here as well. So analyze your market, understand your USPs, which I think is a really strong point. Before you even go into business, make sure you've got something that somebody would want. Keep the cash. And it reminds me of a young company that I've been helping for a while now, and they had 3 or 4 bumper months and they were doing really well. And I said, I've got a new financial strategy for you. And I had a whiteboard behind me. And I just wrote, don't spend it on the whiteboard. It was as simple as that. I says, that's your strategy for now. And it's really important to have a war chest.
Don't take it out. I know everyone gets very excited when you have a really good year. Don't take it all out. You've got it.
No.
There will come a time, either you'll get an opportunity to buy something or someone, or times aren't quite as good, and you just need that reserve.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Great piece of advice. and keep asking great questions and ask for external help as well. There's some real gold dust in that. So thank you very much for that, Josh. The final question is actually a pay it forward question. So this one is from my last guest. And it was Albert, who's the general manager of Chester Football Club. And he would like to know, what is your main quality that you possess that's contributed the most towards your success?
It's quite difficult for me to comment on that because it's quite personal. I think, and I don't want to come across as arrogant. I hope that people would say that I am authentic and I act with integrity from a business perspective. And when I say I'm going to do things, I'm going to do them. Now, that's been a learnt behavior as well. I've got to be honest. I'm not saying I wasn't authentic or I didn't act with integrity when I was younger, but I think I've learned that actually, if you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. You really have to do it. And especially as the leader of the organization. And you may want to explain if you have to change course, but be honest about it. And actually, honesty has got us a long way with customers, suppliers, and with our people, with my team. When times are good, we've said it's good. And when times are tough, we said it's tough. The honesty and keeping those lines of communication open are really, really important. And I think that's helped us succeed from a business point of view. And it hasn't always been great. And I've got to work on how we celebrate success because we're not great at it in this business. If I'm being brutal, we're great at telling them bad news. We're not, but we do tell them good news as well. But it's just like, well, we tell them the news. It's like, oh, great, and we're working on that.
I think that's a great answer to that question, Josh. Thank you for that. Do you have a question for my next guest?
I don't know who it is, but I always think it's quite interesting to find out how people deal with customer complaints in terms of or a complaint and what do you do with them as a leader and how do you shape them to make sure, well, I don't want to say make sure it's positive because it's dependent on how they've dealt with them previously, but I always think it's quite a useful, thick tool. When somebody complains, I think you should be able to use that as a positive rather than a negative and see it, how do you turn a customer complaint into a positive? But it's not, customer specific to us and that's our language. So how do you turn a complaint into something positive and do something positive with it?
I can tell you the next guest is scheduled to be a young lady that's built an incredible law firm with a twist, with a difference. And that's a great question for her. Thank you very much, Josh. It's been a pleasure having you on today. And thank you for telling us all about your business. Incredible.
Thank you, Alan.
I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.